Hello, and welcome to this week's movie review. My name is Aaron Smith, and today I will be reviewing two movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer. Like many, I was able to see both of these back to back, and I want to give both of my thoughts and perspectives on these films. So, let's get started. So first, let's start with Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig and written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. We follow Barbie, who lives in Barbie Land, with all of the rest of the Barbies and Kens. They live this dream life as they party all day and they do the exact same things day after day. However, our lead character, Barbie, defects and she starts to see the flaws in her thinking, causing her to go into the real world to solve the issue. She brings Ken along with her, and as they go into the real world, they find that their reality and their perception of the real world isn't exactly what lines up with Barbie Land, which actually causes Barbie Land to change as a result. I'd say one word that describes this film is impressive. I honestly didn't have too many expectations when I did hear that they were making a Barbie film, just because I didn't think that it would be as adult or mature as it was. But it tackled a lot of themes and ideas that really wouldn't be shown in a kid's film or with a kid's toy, which I thought was impressive. Not only was the story impressive, but the production and the wardrobe was very expansive. There's lots of pink, which obviously makes sense as it comes with the whole Barbie brand. But I felt that it really sells the idea of a Barbie dream house. It really felt like toys came to life on the screen. Predictably, the tone is bright and happy, which would come with the Barbie brand, but surprisingly, it's very emotional. And reality really kicks into the story, especially when Barbie starts to reflect on the real world and her impact that she had on it. So let's talk about the characters. Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie, is exceptional in this role. I think she's found the role that she is not only the most like, but also so transformative in. I feel that she perfectly encapsulated Barbie, her naivete, but also her realism, and she really sold the more fun, classic Barbie moments, as well as the more emotional moments. It was just amazing to watch her performance unfold. I think some of the best things that she did was when she was starting to cry, but she kept that smile on her face. The smile really represented the toy, but the tears represented something that was real. And it was kind of a cool juxtaposition that showed that she was starting to become real, or at least sentient in her thinking. Another character that I thought really excelled was Ken, played by Ryan Gosling. Ken is a character that undergoes a lot of transformation in this film, going from somebody who is almost just a side character, if that, to the Barbies of the world, to a leader type and somebody who wants to revolutionize Barbie Land. Ken's idea of what to do with the real world and brings it over to Barbie Land is almost like a little boy and how they would rule the world, which I thought was really funny because they almost have childlike mindsets, right? Barbie and Ken both have this childlike view on the world, and so of course the way they would bring those ideas into Barbie Land would be almost like a child's view of the world. So of course, partying all day, going to the beach, having dance parties, sleepovers, all that kind of stuff feels very childlike. And so them bringing that childlike innocence into Barbie Land and creating a society based on that really is sold by both of those two leading performances. I'd say some of the themes of the film, of course, feminism and masculinity are two big themes. Of course, we have feminism on the Barbie side, masculinity on the Ken side. But realism and trauma, I think, really is emphasized in this film, which is something I did not suspect, of course. With it being a Barbie film, of course, it's about toys and fun. But I feel that this film really needed those realism and traumatic moments to really make the thought process of Barbie Land kind of be questioned. And purpose and belonging is another theme in this film, which I think kind of everybody can relate to. Barbie doesn't feel that she has a purpose when she sees the real world. She feels that her purpose was to create a almost utopia for women, but she sees that that doesn't happen in the real world, starting to cause her to question herself and her role in this world. And I think that that trauma and her seeing what reality is like is something that really allows us to reflect on our own lives and see what is our purpose, what stamp do we make on this world. And I think Barbie is always questioning that throughout the film, and she probably is still questioning that at the end of the film, but she's willing to step foot into something that enact change and not just be the idea, be the poster character of, Barbie, but instead really enact change. And I think that's really inspirational. Something that a lot of people, not just girls, but also guys, can really start to look at and realize, maybe I should be the change. I think for Christians, we can learn a lot about treating each other with respect. Of course, the Kens don't feel that they are respected in this world, causing them to do all the mayhem that they do in Act 2. But we also can uphold each other to make a brighter world. In Luke chapter 6, verse 31, it says, treat others the same way you want them to treat you. And I think the Barbies really start to see that they didn't treat the Kens with respect. They didn't treat the Kens like they mattered. Of course, the Barbies felt mistreated as well, as they were brainwashed and taken over when the Kens decided to take power. And I think treating each other with respect is something that a lot of people can kind of take away from this movie, and really adds on to the equality kind of thought process. And I think also Christians can learn about purpose and our meaning with life, really reflecting on our role and our relationship with God, and how our actions affect the real world. Of course, what we put out into the world is what we'll receive, and I think that's what Barbie and Ken start to realize, that whatever they put out into the world is what they'll get back. And that's why I think Barbie's really surprised me, because not only was it a film about fun and excitement and just shenanigans, but also really was a deep introspective thought on not only feminism, masculinity, but also your role in the world and what you bring to the table, which I thought was really inspirational. So, the second half of this review will be dedicated to Oppenheimer, which is directed and written by Christopher Nolan. This film follows J. Robert Oppenheimer, an American theoretical physicist and the director of the Los Alamos Laboratory during World War II, as he spearheads the creation of the atomic bomb and wrestles with the psychological effects that come with it. This film is a biopic, and there's a lot of accuracy that can be shown between history and this film's events. Christopher Nolan was inspired by the biography American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. Now, there are a lot of written records and recordings of the events that followed in this film. The Los Alamos test, the Oppenheimer versus Strauss debate, the Allied partnership with Albert Einstein, the Jean Tatlock affair and death, and the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, while the style is dark and grounded, it really fits with the tone of the film and makes you feel like you're peering into history. The sets feel real and lived in, and when the test atom bomb goes off, it's truly a marvel to behold. It's truly interesting to get into J. Robert Oppenheimer's head, as we see what he's really thinking, especially at the rally scene. The shaky backgrounds behind him, the blinding light, the sound. It's not only psychological, but it's truly horrific. Shifting back and forth between the black and white and the color makes the film feel like it's really showing different angles of history. The black and white is objective and the color is subjective. We see the black and white through Strauss's eyes, but we see color through Oppenheimer's eyes, which I think is really interesting. It kind of shows the difference between both the characters because they do think very differently. Having that stark contrast allows that story to be told in a subtle way. So, the tone. It's very serious and it's filled with drama, of course, ramping up to the anxieties that the psychological effects will hold on Oppenheimer. And I think that the film really does build up to the test in Los Alamos, which I think was done marvelously. I mean, everything that they did between real practical effects and also the reactions and the music, I think really sold that scene and made it feel like an event. Furthermore, I think the tone creates a dramatic shift in the work that's being done with the anxieties of the communist spies. The film really starts off in 3 different acts. The first act is Oppenheimer getting the job that he wants. The second act is him testing his theories, creating the bomb. And the third act is him dealing with the fallout and the psychological trauma of the bomb and being put on trial for it. And I think it's really interesting to show that progression of character. And the tone progresses with it too. In the beginning, the tone is a little bit more hopeful, but then as the film goes on, we get a little bit dramatic, a little bit more tense, a little bit more anxious. And at the end, it's really dreary. And I think what's really interesting is the end of the film, where we see that Oppenheimer's conversation with Albert Einstein was just a reflection on what mankind will do to the world in the future. Now, while the film has a plethora of characters and actors, the film really follows 2 main leading males. We see Oppenheimer in Cillian Murphy, and we see Strauss in Robert Downey Jr. both of them really carry the film, and we understand both of their motives perfectly. I think that's one thing I really enjoyed about this film. Every character is flawed, and any aspect, nobody is good or bad. I don't think that that's true in life, and so I'm happy to see that Christopher Nolan didn't make it true in this film. So, let's go into the themes of the film. Science, politics, and ethics are a big theme in this film. Of course, we see Oppenheimer wrestling with the effects of the bomb and what they should and should not do, and how they should and should not use it. And I think that seeing how much power science has in the world today makes that a real possibility and something that we should ponder after this film. Furthermore, politics and ethics come into play, them figuring out how to use the bomb, especially because they know it will impact innocence. Also, playing with fire and playing with God is a big theme in this film. The opening scene shows text that goes across the screen talking about Prometheus, who is a mythological character who brought fire to the humans, stole it from the gods, and thus doomed humanity. And I think Oppenheimer really is that type of character. Oppenheimer really did open up a box, a Pandora's box, if you will, that made humanity realize the potential that science has. And the politics of this film, while those scenes could drag on or could get a little confusing, I think was really necessary to put in because it really showed the dilemma that everybody had on this. This wasn't just one group's problem, this was a worldwide problem, and it really reflected that in this film. And that could also bring our own downfall. Something to ponder. So, how does this relate to Christianity? Well, playing God and trying to hold the power of God is frowned upon. Also, ethics play a big role in the film, and we see that the Bible talks about how we shouldn't justify wrong. In Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil." I definitely feel that this film really portrays that statement well because every character is gray. There is no good, there is no evil, there is no choice that is perfectly outlined and straightforward, and that is the right choice. Everything has a consequence, and I think that that's true to life, and I think that that is something that we as humans have to understand, that we can't play God and think there are no repercussions of it. I think there's a very real future that could happen where we do destroy the world because we decide to play God, and I think that that's really dangerous, and I love when films dive into that topic because not only is it real, but it's a possibility and it's a potential future for us. So, both Barbie and Oppenheimer have shared themes that I thought was really telling and made this double feature kind of work. So, the theme of danger of ideas being made real is apparent in both films. And also, finally, leaving their stamp on the world. I think both of these films really show this idea very clearly. So, what would my recommendation be? Well, both of these films are a testament to both of these directors, Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan, easily being some of their best films to date. I would recommend starting with Oppenheimer, which is what I started with first, because it is longer and the deeper of the two films, and then have a little party with Barbie afterwards. So, what would I rate both films? I would rate, from a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being awful and 10 being perfect, Oppenheimer would be an 8. And I would rate Barbie a 7. So, that's what I would recommend. As Christians, it's a lot for us to take away from both messages to truly better ourselves, society, and our effect we have on the world. However, the search begins internally. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the double feature and took something out of this review. I'm your host, Aaron Smith. Have a blessed day, and thank you so much for watching.